National Defense University, so that the ethos of discipline and integrating a focused and strategic management of resources is also spread to the profession of accounting, so that when your members find opportunities in the public service, they understand that every resource we have is a strategic opportunity that must be managed in a strategic manner for us to move forward. We long lost the days when we used to look at security of our country as something isolated from the rest of what happens in society. How we use the resources we have and how we deploy them is a security issue. Because if we don't use the resources we have effectively, we are making ourselves vulnerable, as it were, and we are weakening ourselves as a society, and thereby increasing chances of vulnerability and failure as a society. And therefore, I plead for institutional partnerships between yourselves and agencies of government, so that as we move forward, we understand that every decision we make and every deployment of resources we make must be done in a strategic manner. But thirdly, and most importantly, ladies and gentlemen, is the challenge I want to give you as professionals. Let's not delude ourselves. We don't believe, as executive branch of government, that in and on our own we can successfully fight corruption. The war against corruption must involve all of us. It takes all of us to build a society of integrity. It takes all of us to preserve and protect and prudently use our resources. What that means is that each one of us, beginning from our individual capacities to institutional capacities such as ISPAC, we now have to stand up and rise up to the challenge of dealing with the challenges of integrity in our country. Mr. Chairman, for the benefit of your organization, I have documented for you 18 cases where investigations are complete and they involve accountants and members of your organization who have been involved in malpractice that we all know. And I want to ask you, because I'm going to leave you my write-up, that the Executive Committee and the Council of ISPAC begin leading from the front. Before Mr. Kinoti and Mr. Haji proceeds, you should also do your bit. Because surely you must be having an ethical code of conduct as accountants. Because all these people, I don't know whether any one of you has looked at the Business Daily this morning. All the stories on page 1 are about corruption. Which parastatal is not paying X amount of money, which claim is fraudulent. And in each of those, if you look at them, members of our wonderful organization called ISPAC are involved. So, Mr. Chairman, it's indeed the time for us to begin that crusade together with you, so that we can deal with these issues and see how best we can clean up our country. No one is going to clean our country for us. We will do it ourselves. All those great countries we admire and all those great economies that we talk about that make reference to were done and built by the citizens of their country. And they were done through sacrifice. The independence of this country that we enjoy today, our nationhood, was paid for by some people's blood. What we are being asked to do as professionals to try and build our country in terms of upholding very strong principles of integrity is less than what many people paid before for this country. So I challenge you, especially after I leave these cases behind and the Auditor General is here as my witness and the controller of budget, I hope, Mr. Chairman, by next year we will hear a story about what your council finally did with these cases, because they have been investigated, the information is there, and if you need more, you can get from Mr. Kinoti and Mr. Haji and all these wonderful people at the EACC, and look at all these things. I told you when we spoke about the invitation to come here, I said, I love niceties of coming here and saying platitudes and reading a speech and saying, oh, it's an honor to be here. Thank you so much. It gives me great pleasure and impression to be here. Those platitudes are good, but I think it's time for us to be honest with one another. I don't want to wax lyrical and PR-driven by saying, it gives me great pleasure to be here. It gives me great pleasure to be here. I'm happy to be here, yes. But let's have a honest conversation about our country, a honest conversation about how we are going to move our country forward. We can't just come to public service or public events like this, do nice things, become poetic, and say how grateful we are and how honored we are to be here before you, and then we get into the plane and go back to Nairobi. Then next year again, a set of people come, they say how grateful they are and how honored they are, then they go back to Nairobi. Let's do things that people will come and see that we have actually helped our country.